Manhunt still underway this morning for the gunman who killed prominent conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Authorities now urging the public to help to identify the shooter, releasing new photos and video of the suspect last night. The new surveillance footage shows a person running across the roof of a campus building, then jumping to the ground and fleeing on foot. Authorities say the person left a palm impression as he climbed down, as well as a shoe impression when he landed on the grass. The suspect then crossed the street into a wooded area where law enforcement says they have recovered a high-powered bolt-action rifle. The FBI offering a reward up to $100,000 for information leading to the identification and arrest of the shooter. Utah Governor Spencer Cox spoke about the search for the suspect at a news conference last night.
We cannot do our job without the public's help right now. The public has answered our call for action. So far, we've received more than 7,000 leads and tips. I would just note that the FBI hasn't received this many digital media tips from the public since the Boston Marathon bombing. I would also just add a word of note for those people who are spending so much time on social media. I think Charlie said it best, that when things get bad, we should put our phones down and spend a little time with our families. There is a tremendous amount of disinformation. We desperately need some healing. We'll have more to say about that in the days and weeks to come. More than anything, we are going to catch this person.
As Governor Cox of Utah, let's bring in MSNBC investigative correspondent Mark Santia. Mark, good morning. So since we spoke yesterday, not a whole lot of new information other than the publishing of this video, which shows the events right after the shooting. What more do we know about the search this morning, now entering, well, its third day, coming up on 48 hours since the shooting here in a bit? When the FBI at this time yesterday, when we spoke with you, said, we've got this, we have images of him, we have technology that's going to help us find this person, what does it tell you that they've now asked for the public's help in identifying and finding this man?
Willie, and you're absolutely right. They said, we got this. They said, we're using technology to help identify the person of interest. And they also said, but if we can't identify that person, we're going to reach out to the public. Willie, they reached out not once, but twice. They reached out first, sending straightaway stills of the person of interest's face. Hours later, they sent out very specific, deliberate shots of clothing, of the shoes. And then we had them last night put out this video, has the gunman running across the roof of that building, jumping down, and the police said they were able to get a palm print, a forearm print, and then that footwear impression. When the suspect landed on the ground, created that footwear impression, there you see it, right there from the building, jumping down. Also, Willie, what's very interesting is police talked about how this person was able to blend in on that college campus. You see in that video, he just walks past people. There's cars driving by, folks going about their business. He blended in. But again, Willie, these are the other photos they sent out yesterday, the stills. Those are the straightforward, direct shots of the face, and then they enhanced the clothing. You have an American flag with an eagle on the front of that sweatshirt. The backpack, very specific. Well, these aren't just, it's not just one person who says, I want to put this photo out. Behind the scenes, law enforcement sources familiar with this, there's a team at work saying, what do we need to put out specifically? And they have a timeline. They have that 28-minute timeline from when the suspect arrived near campus to when they walked off campus. Now they're trying to extend that timeline. Did anyone see this person before the shooting, before they arrived on campus? Does anyone recognize that very distinct shirt, the American flag with the eagle? Teams enhanced that sweatshirt. They enhanced that photo so the public could take a closer look. The police commissioner also said they were wearing Converse shoes. So again, Willie, there is a massive outreach to the public. They have 7,000 tips, the FBI's nationwide tip line. They're going through that. They're triaging those, kicking those tips out, and investigating those leads through the night and continuing today.
And what they're saying is, here's the photograph. Someone knows this person, whether it's a family member, a friend, maybe a classmate, if he indeed was a college student. help us identify this person. We heard from Tom Winter, our colleague, in the last hour, reminding us that in the case of the shooter of United Healthcare CEO in Midtown Manhattan, it was actually a McDonald's worker who had been watching the coverage over the previous several days and said, wait, that's the guy from TV, called in the tip that got him arrested. So when you consider, Mark, what we just heard, that some 7,000 tips have come in, and presumably many more since that news conference last night, how does the FBI, how does law enforcement begin even to process all of that and separate credible tips from hunches that people may have?
Willie, at this point, and you mentioned the United Healthcare CEO, that murder. Similar to that murder, you have teams working. Every tip comes in, and they get sent out. So they get run down. They have hundreds of people working together on this case right now. So you have people who are analyzing the weapon that was recovered, that bolt action gun. You have people analyzing and looking at the prints that may have been recovered, running databases of information. So you have separate teams all working together. But Willie, as you said, with all of those tips and leads coming in, they're tracking down everyone. And sometimes you talk to investigators, there's frustration. They're human. So when you have leads that bear no fruit, it's tough, but you just keep pushing at it, and they just keep pushing at it.
Is this, in your, experience, a matter of time, number one, and number two, there are a lot of things being thrown out there without basis. So I'm just curious, at this point, has other participants been ruled out?
So, Mika, at this point, they're still sifting through. There were people of interest, and people of interest who, obviously, we saw in the first few hours, people of interest who were taken into custody, they were talked to, they were released.
Yeah.
No charges have been filed. Right now, police are looking for two things. Okay. They're looking for the person, the suspect. They're also looking for an ID. The ID is key. Identification. They want to know who this person is, because that sort of center will grow. Then you can start talking to family, to friends. You can look at their phones. And so, yeah, they're looking at
Did they miss any time not immediately releasing the picture? Because remember, there was this sense of confidence that they knew who he was. They had it. They had an ID, identification. I guess they meant a picture. But they wanted to hold to release that to the public, to ask the public's help.
Mika, I think there's different strategies. And when you talk to different law enforcement sources, they'll tell you, like Jonathan mentioned yesterday about someone being in the wind. If you put out too much information, well, that sort of scares someone and they'll take off. If you feel confident, you know who this person is, then sometimes you want to sit on that information. That's what
hard to
investigators
judge
say.
from the outside,
It's hard
for sure.
to judge.
So, Mark, talk to us about the dangers of incomplete information getting out there. I think the initial response has been criticized. There's been no shooting. There's no arrest yet. The FBI director himself suggested that they had the suspect in custody. Only an hour later, I have to say, no, we didn't. He was just a person of interest. There was some bad reporting that came out yesterday in terms of evidence found and that suggested a possible motive. That was later walked back. Would you speak to law enforcement, the professionals who have been doing this for decades? Are they concerned, what seems to be kind of a haphazard first couple days?
I think they're concerned about that disinformation. They're concerned about leaks. They're concerned about social media. And our colleague Tom Winter, very, very cautious. He's very quick to point out as well that some of this information that came out was walked back. So there's a very slow, methodical part of it, even from our perspective of we want multiple sources confirming, because to your point yesterday, there was information that came out that we were cautioned on. Hold up a second. Let's take it slow. And then you saw some of that information being walked back. So yeah, I do think at this point, there is, talking to investigators, there's a little bit of frustration, but in this day and age, there's also web sleuths. And we've covered stories where civilians at home have helped crack cold cases. Civilians have come up. There is this sort of interest, especially in the case of the United Healthcare CEO, where all of a sudden you put those pictures out and people were calling about the backpack. You could buy that backpack in Lower Manhattan. We know where they sell that. And so there is this sort of sense, this community. We all watch true crime. I mean, there is that fascination where you have civilians, the community, stepping up.
Adding to that, speak to us, if you will, about the pressure perhaps investigators are feeling and maybe other law enforcement not directly involved in the case have expressed to you. Because I heard from a few people yesterday, because this is such a prominent individual, the assassination was so public, he's also a friend of the president's, that there would be a lot of heat to get this done and get it done soon, and perhaps to even confirm some political biases. Everything right now, it's a political assassination. We know how quick people are to leap to assign motive and agenda.
Jonathan, last night I was speaking to a couple federal agents who were talking about the pressure. They weren't working on this case, but they were talking about the pressure. And as you mentioned, but they said the biggest pressure when they're in an investigation is the pressure they put on themselves, the pressure to find the person who did this. The clock is ticking because in case that person wants to hurt someone else. So the agents I was speaking to said, and the investigators said, look, every case, especially with violence, especially in a homicide, there is an incredible amount of pressure to bring justice to the person who was killed, to the family, to the friends. So there is pressure in this case because it is such a international case, because Charlie Kirk had a friendship, a very close friendship with many people, with the president, with the vice president. But the investigator said, first and foremost, it's the pressure we put on ourselves to close the case and bring justice.
Right, right. So I don't want to put you in a bad position. I know you're talking to so many, but have you had any contact with the university?
At this point, we can no contact
okay.
with the university.
I'm just curious about, I mean, this video that I think now has been pretty much expunged from the internet. It's incredibly traumatizing. And I wonder how the students there are doing. There were some 3,000 there, at least in the audience.
Yeah, you're right.
That is just, I am praying for them.
We know
as well.
campus is still closed. I believe classes resume on Monday. So
Right.
you hope certainly the students are being offered help and counseling.
Right.
And looking at the website, I have not talked with
Right.
them, but on the website they're offering mental health counseling. And you're right, the campus reopens on Monday, on the 15th, and at this point, you know, there were kids who were barricaded in there. There's a lot of trauma.
Terrible.
And so they are offering mental health services at this time.
And then how to move forward on campuses across America, given this. You know.